Bros.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked down by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Dustin Schutte with me as well from Saturday Tradition. Hope everyone's having a good day. Dustin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Jim. I'm going to play golf about 4 or 5 times in the next 8 or 9 days. So you can't beat that, man. This is what the off season is all about.
Man, yeah, I was just talking about the other day, and that the beginning of the week, it was like pretty stress-free for the first time in, 2 or 3 months. And I was still looking over my shoulder, but kind of starting to get used to that not happening. But, yeah, I think Saturday I'm supposed to play a little bit, so I'm looking forward to that. Got graduation on Friday, so get through that, and then it's off and running to the races with the AAU basketball. Plenty to get to this summer, but just looking forward to doing a little relaxing if possible. But it never really gets quiet. It never stops. It's always going, but this is definitely the time of year where you got to sneak a little bit of time in. There's the time right now between the players at Indiana arriving for men's basketball. They will begin to some of them are here already because they were students, but the new faces begin to arrive around June 1st. Was it Miller Kopp that won't be here until like the 12th because of the system he's on? But other than that, it is the quieter time, which is nice. Gives you time to reflect and look forward on what's coming up. Fans in the stands of all of the sports that we're going to be covering, that is gigantic. My first Tuesday was the first day that I really went and went up to the IU baseball game. And when I was leaving the press box, I just stopped on the concrete retaining wall down by the bullpen and just put my arms up and just stood there for like 20 minutes listening to it was Illinois' side, but listen to the battery just pitching back and forth, hearing that pop, and it was right there, and it was like, man, this is just cool. It's like it's normal stuff, but it's like it is so nice to get back to normal stuff.
Oh, it's fantastic. And you've already started to hear, certain schools are saying we're going 100% capacity, whether that's the NCAA, even with the baseball and softball championships, they're going to permit 100% capacity, assuming that you have local and state guidelines that will permit that. So that's a great sign for college football, college basketball next season. We're going to get 100%. I fully believe. I was skeptical. I thought we'd be somewhere around 50% about this time last year, but I think we're going to be 100% full. And, for people like you, Jim, who are at every game, that's such a difference maker, because you talked about throughout the football and basketball season, it's just such a weird dynamic. It's like you're playing in a warehouse, and that has an effect on some of these players. And obviously Indiana took great benefit from that on the football field last season. But you talk about Assembly Hall, you talk about one of the greater home court advantages in all of basketball, and having that place rocking and at 100%. And now with a new exciting coaching staff and a better roster, this is going to be a great year for Indiana athletics. We've talked about it on this show. There's not really many programs in the athletic department that are struggling right now. So when you have football rocking, when you have basketball rocking, women's basketball is great. Soccer just went to the national championship. I mean, having all those students, having all those fans back in the arenas and the venues, that's going to be an awesome, awesome sign next season. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see it back at full capacity, regardless of where it is.
Yeah, when I was at the baseball game, ironically, I saw a couple of people that I hadn't seen that works for Indiana since not last basketball season, but the prior basketball season, maybe, and wondered if they still had a job. Yeah. I didn't know if they were even here still. And I'm like, hey, you made it through. And it turns out they're busier than hell with what they do. And I was like, wow, that's great to hear. So it's good to see that. So, but yeah, getting back to it and go ahead.
And I was just going to chime in to add to that point. You talk about not having jobs in it. It seems like a lot of these athletic departments now, you just saw Stanford is going to reinstate those 11 varsity programs that they thought they were going to cut. I think Iowa added a couple. I don't know if they added all 4 back, but I know that they added at least a few back. Jobs are being kept. The SEC just redistributed, 25 million to all of its 14 institutions this past week. So we thought that this was going to be a catastrophic event, and I'm sure for some athletic departments in some schools it absolutely was. I'm sure people still got laid off and lost their jobs, and that's sad. But at the same time, having those sports back, finding a way to play football, to play basketball, to have some limited attendance in some circumstances really helped negate some of those costs. And now you're starting to see employees go back to work. You're starting to see scholarships back offered, and some of these programs reinstated. So just think about how bad everything was a year ago and how gloomy the forecast was, even as late as, September and October, especially in the Big Ten, when you didn't even have football. And now it's like, I'm not going to say it's all clear skies and sunshine, but at the same time, it's been a lot worse. And I think that these schools, these presidents, athletic directors, conference commissioners, not all of them did a great job, but most of them did a really good job to make sure that these student athletes are going to get the opportunities, that employees are going to be able to continue to work. And I think it gets overlooked because they've done a wonderful job. And just the fact that you said some of these people, you didn't know if they were going to have jobs and they're still working and they're busier than ever. That's a credit to so many people. And I think that goes overlooked right now.
Yeah. And the fact that that will allow things to proceed more fluidly, seamlessly. You don't have to worry about adding personnel and this and that and being behind. So things can and move forward. And I'm looking forward to that very much so. You talked about Indiana taking advantage of not having fans in the stands at some games last year. And it did. It helped Indiana and more than it hurt, for sure. Indiana is one of those teams that does not have a great following. Right. It's going to be interesting this year to see what the Indiana football fans do. Because if you don't think that fans in the stands make a difference, first of all, you're just wrong. You're just absolutely wrong. Secondly, you're just not into sports. You don't attend sports and you don't have the experience to back up why you're wrong. It freaking matters. A marginal Michigan team will be 75% successful playing in Ann Arbor because they've got 110,000 people, making it damn near impossible for offenses to operate down in their end of the end zone. Yeah. It is beyond difficult. You come to Indiana, those teams don't face that problem. Now, could that change? Absolutely. You don't have to have 110,000 people. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter the size. A 50,000-seater stadium can get loud enough in the end zone if you've got the people getting loud. We saw it when Indiana beat Michigan in 87. Who was it? Wasn't it Bo Schembechler that called a damn timeout? They got a free timeout because of crowd noise, which was crazy. But of all people, Bo Schembechler and from Michigan gets a timeout because of crowd noise at Indiana.
That happened at least twice in his career, because I think it was sometime in the 80s. He also did that in the game against Iowa. Crowd noise, he got a free timeout, and Iowa, I think back then, I think fans a team could have been assessed a penalty, if I remember correctly, if the crowd was too loud and couldn't hear the cadence. So what a
crock of crap that is, but
it was. But I remember I watched a game on Big Ten Network maybe 2 years ago, and the whole game stopped because of crowd noise. And it's like, can you imagine that happening today? I mean, it's impossible for these quarterbacks to operate in just about any stadium.
Yeah, but getting back to the point, it is going to be important for Indiana fans. They'll see if they fill those stands. There's when I've seen, there's been a little bump in ticket sales, but Indiana's not going to be a ticket sale or a season ticket sales group yet. I think it's going to be more walk-ups. But more importantly, they got to get their asses out of the parking lot and into the stadium. This ain't a party. If you're coming to the football game, they need to get into the football game, or why are you there? But it's going to be interesting because Indiana needs that. They're not a program that can just waltz around and push Michigan around or Penn State around or whomever and have 25,000 people in the stadium when 6 of them left at halftime because they're students and they're out in the damn park, out in the fields. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Renata hitting us up on the Andy Moore Hannah hotline. I hope we fill Memorial Stadium to 75%. Why not 100?
100%.
It's going to be 100%. Yeah, there's not going to be. I don't see any limits. There will be no reason for limits. We're already past that now. We're on the way down now. That's 4 months away. However, there will not be limits. I don't see that. Chris asks, was the lottery question ever answered? Meaning, if the Pacers, there you go. We didn't talk about the Pacers yet, but if the Pacers lose, do they play tonight?
Yeah, they play again tonight. They beat Charlotte on Tuesday. So if
I knew that.
If they beat Washington tonight, then they'll be in the playoffs.
Game's at 8:00. I remember that now.
Yep. And if they lose, then they're done, and they will. I don't know I couldn't see the question, but they would go into the lottery in the playoffs.
If they lose, they still go into the lottery. But I think that's what Chris Denari said they would have, or someone said they would have a minuscule. I asked Chris today; he'll be on with us, so we'll let him fill that in later on. But yeah, they have played tonight at 8. So that's why I asked. Oh, it was Mike DeCourcy. I was saying, well, aren't they better off losing this game? And from a team standpoint, they are, but not really. I don't know that it's really going to make a ton of difference as far as draft position, winning or losing this particular game.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters that much. And the Pacers organization in its history, and I know Larry Bird was a big part of this, they've done a really good job of drafting in the teens before. So, I mean, they're going to be about the same spot, regardless of whether they're in the lottery or not. So I think you want to win. You want to get your guys that playoff experience. I know they had it the past couple of seasons, but they do have some new faces on there. And this team's playing well right now. They played well towards the end of the season. Even though they lost some of those games, they played well against the Lakers to close out the year. So I would like to see them in the playoffs. Obviously, I've worn a Pacer shirt on this show for the past, 18 weeks now or what. So obviously I want to see them win, but I don't think it matters whether they're in the lottery or whether they're playing in the playoffs. They're going to draft around the same spot. And like I said, the organization has done a tremendous job getting guys in the teams. I think Danny Granger is a guy that comes to mind. Paul George, I think he was still top 10, but they were near the bottom of that. So it's a good organization that knows how to draft. So there should be no worries about that.
We got to take a break. I don't know if Matt Taylor is going to join us next or the segment after that, John. I don't know, but he will be joining us soon, as well as Chris Denari as well. We got plenty to talk about. 2023 point guard Jeremy Fears is scheduled to visit for Indiana. The visits are happening now. Here comes the visits and getting out, coaches getting out. So things are starting to change. We got more to talk about in the Sports Beat when we come back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
Matt Taylor is joining this segment. He says he's only got about 10 minutes. And then, Dustin, is there any other way you could do without the headphones?
Let me see here.
Okay.
Do you have a wired pair? Do you have a wired pair?
I don't think he can hear you right now.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Is this good?
Oh my gosh, that sounds
That's
way better.
fucking beautiful.
Okay, we'll just go here. I have to keep you guys on a lower volume. So
Okay. If that's an issue for you, let me know or
Man,
text
that
me or
sounds
I don't
great.
know. But you sound fantastic now.
okay. Well, I'll just leave the headphones over here then, and as long as it's good for you guys, I'll battle through it. I'll just get my ear closer.
Okay.
This is the best you've ever sounded.
Yeah, this is better than in the closet. Yeah, but when Matt Taylor, he said he's either only got 10 minutes or he's joining in 10 minutes. But he said that 10 minutes ago, which means he's joining on time. And I asked him if 9:20 was good. So I know he'll be here for some period of time this segment coming up.
Read his text to see what it says.
Yeah, I'll just read you. I mean, it doesn't say much. That's why I said I don't know if it means he's staying. I think it means he's leaving in 10 minutes. But I said, good morning, Matt. Are you able to join at 9:20 per usual? He said, sounds good. I can go about 10 minutes or so. And I said, perfect. Thanks, Matt. I think that means he's just staying for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Maytay, the professional.
He sent me his little reel whenever I was putting together that new intro, and I didn't realize he did the whole INDY touchdown thing. I thought that was interesting. Is that like his signature thing on the radio when
you should use that?
Well, I thought the Jonathan Taylor run to the touchdown sounded better than that. I can always switch it up. I have it at my disposal.
It sounds good.
It does sound good. That was a good intro.
I do need to work on my own voicing of it. I'm going to edit that probably over the weekend and make that sound a little crisper or maybe less exaggerated, but still with the inflection.
It's not the exaggeration.
I know what you mean.
It's sounding red.
Yes.
More conversational.
Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great Thursday. I am, because I've got Dustin Schutte here and now Matt Taylor. So how could it be any better? Matthew, how are you, sir?
Life is good. What's up?
Just learning to try to go through the day and not wait for the next big thing to break and be okay with that. Learning to live life again, it seems like.
What's been breaking in your neck of the woods? What's going on? What's the latest?
Nothing.
Give me the scuttle.
Good. Nothing good. And that's great. Nothing other than Indiana seems to be football. They're tucked away. They've made some great pickups, some transfers. The car kid from Southern Cal. You got the defensive lineman that just came in as well. I mean, they've just had a ton of great transfers of kids that all thought the grass was greener when they left high school, taking that big offer, whether it was USC, a kid from Auburn, Ole Miss, Stanford. And then, man, they're getting that. The USC running back is a former 5-star. Indiana's never had a 5-star.
Yeah, give me the lowdown. Give me the lowdown on him, because that's awesome in terms of 5-star rating, and it helps the profile of the program and everything. But why is a 5-star recruit not translated to the featured back at a program like USC? Like, what am I missing on that?
Well, one thing, he was with DeLon McCullough when in his freshman year, I think, and then that's when McCullough left. But I think there was an injury or two along the way, and it just hasn't manifested itself there for whatever reason. And obviously now it looks like he may have gotten over-recruited. I don't know, but we'll see. DeLon McCullough must obviously see something in him, bringing him in, and it adds certainly depth to the Indiana running backs room.
Well, at the very least, what it does is it raises the eyebrows of other kids coming out of high school, saying, "Hey, this kid is going from USC to Indiana. Like, what's that all about?" So now it's raising the profile of the program. And I've said this a million times, like, where we were 10, 12 years ago, in a prior lifetime of IU football, kids were going to IU and picking the Hoosiers over Central Michigan and Ball State, and now they're picking IU over, Ole Miss and USC, or transferring in from Ohio State. Like, you're not going to beat out those programs every year for recruits, but now you're starting to win some battles, which is all you need to get the ball rolling. So it's very exciting. And yeah, I mean, I think we've said this every year for the last 3 or 4 years, which is great. Like, I'm more excited now for an IU football season to come than I ever have been. So those are the expectations of the program, and it's nice to have those, to just not not beat 3 or 4 non-conference teams and see what you can do in the Big Ten. Now, obviously, the goals are a lot more loftier.
His freshman season, and boy, oh boy, I know exactly what this is like. He had a plantar fasciitis. And if you have ever had that, holy crap, I would have killed somebody to make that pain stop.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest. Is it a tendon or ligament in your foot?
I've never had it. But I remember when Eli Manning had that.
Walking.
Yeah, I remember when Eli Manning had that, and same kind of thing, just excruciating, and did everything he could just to muster up the energy to play every Sunday. He wasn't practicing during the week to manage the pain. But yeah, I've never had that, thankfully, but I've heard it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, so I can't imagine. There's no way you could be a running back and have that. That's I assure you, there's not. You can barely walk. The meaning of the foot. So there's no planning. So that's a tough way to start your freshman season, and then of course that you can probably see getting lost in there. But he left the Trojans. He rushed 264 times, over 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, caught 57 passes for 400 plus yards too. So fits right into the Indiana kind of offense. That's a very fast-paced type of offense. So could be a very nice little piece they've added in addition to the defensive lineman from Auburn, Jaron Handy, another top 100 prospect. It's just great to see that coming in.
No, without question. And give credit to Tom Allen, because again, IU is recruiting above their station, above their lot in the landscape of college football. And, they've been able to do this without a sustained era of greatness, right? I mean, they've only really had one breakthrough season. They're trying to build upon that, but IU's recruiting like they have had 4 or 5 breakout seasons where they have 6-7 wins in the Big Ten, and that just hasn't been the case. So when people say Tom Allen is just a rah guy, man, it's all about culture, it's all about fit, it's all about having the right guy for the right job, and certainly they're building an atmosphere down there that's very attractive for a lot of young kids.
Yep, I forgot you don't have a lot of time today, so I don't want to waste all your time talking about Indiana. What's going on with the Colts? It's that kind of same deal right now. It's that time of year where it's catch your breath, you're post-draft, getting everything aligned. Dustin's been following along, even though he's got all of his Pacers gear on, and not, instead I think he's been sporting it. How many weeks in a row did you say? 18?
Well, I don't think it's actually been 18, but I bet it's been at least 5 or 6.
He's killing it, but you're gonna have to start doing an inside out thing. Have one that's got the Colts, and when Matt's on, you can take it off, and then if Chris Denari or somebody's on, you can flip it back over.
So, Dustin, are you a fan of the play-in stuff, the new format, the playoffs?
I actually am, because it adds a level of intrigue to me. And I know a lot of people griped about it, and a lot of people, even NBA stars, said we play a 72, 82 game season to have our year determined by 1 game or 2 games or whatever the case might be. But, to me, it adds that element of, you talk about these players who sit out a certain amount of games, or, when you get to you have a certain record, you're out of the playoffs, so teams start tanking. I think this is a good way to keep teams from doing that, number one. And then number two, who doesn't like it? A couple one and done scenarios at the NBA level. That's why we love college basketball, is because it's a one and done. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. So for the NBA to implement that sort of system, to me, I love it. And if the Pacers were locked into the 7th seed and lost 2 games and then fell out of the playoff picture, I'd probably hate it.
Yeah, that's I think that's that's where I would come from. Like, just to I for the most part agree with you, but I'm thinking, like, traditionally, if I'm a 7 or an 8 seed, but then I still have to play my way in normal years, I would already be in. I think that would be a tough sell, because I got to play more games just to make the playoffs. But in my mind, I'm like, we already did that. So that's where I would have a hard time with it. But you're exactly right. It does make more intrigue, and it gives more fan bases a shot at making the playoffs and being excited about their team for a longer period of time. But there's a lot of people, I'm curious on where you kind of stand with this as a Pacer fan. it's the Pacers for forever seemingly have been a franchise that's been right in the middle. They haven't been great. They haven't been really bad either. And I think it's unbelievable. I think, I love stats and I love analytics to a certain degree. The thing that just blows me away about the Pacers, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on the exact parameters of the stat, but they haven't drafted in the top 10 since like the late 80s, which is, that is, how hard that is to do, which speaks to the consistency of the franchise, obviously.
But it also concedes to a little bit of consistently being mediocre, doesn't it?
Exactly. So it's like, where's the worst place to be in the NBA? It's sort of, you could argue it's where
right
the Pacers are. It's right in the middle. It's obviously a tough place to attract free agents, marquee guys to come play. That's been proven over the years. And then obviously in the recent past with Paul George and Victor Oladipo, and their personal sagas with the fan base, or with the front office, I should say. Just curious, kind of where you stand on if it's a good thing for the Pacers to continue on in their playoff quest here.
I do, and this may be the fan in me talking, because I love to see teams. This is a Pacers team that's been, at times, I want to throw my remote through the TV, and other times I'm jumping my apartment because they're playing so well. This has been a fun and interesting team to watch. And I think to your point, Matt, one of the things, I think the Pacers in their history, not having a top 10 pick, have drafted so well. You look at guys like Paul George and Miles Turner, Danny Granger, guys you got in those mid rounds. This is a franchise that has done an excellent job of getting, they don't get the Joel Embiids, or they don't get, the obviously the Kobe Bryants or the LeBron James type players. And to some extent, I think that's an okay thing, because as you mentioned, it's not a huge destination for a lot of players. So I think after that rookie contract is done, they're going to be on the way out anyway.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So I like the fact that the Pacers have a good repertoire for drafting in that spot. They've built teams. They with the exception of Reggie Miller, and then, for a few years, Paul George, they play more of a team style of basketball anyway. And it seems always have. So I'm not too concerned about where they're drafting, because more times than not, and you even go back to when and a lot of Pacers fans still cringe at this, you go back to when they drafted Kawhi Leonard and they got George Hill, and he was the missing piece to get that team to the Eastern Conference Finals a few years in a row. So I know Larry Bird isn't running the show anymore, but Kevin Pritchard's done a good job. This is under great management. I like to give the coaching staff another year. I'd like to see this team play completely healthy, because I think that they can compete in the East if they're, you bring back TJ Warren and you get Miles Turner healthy and some of those guys. But like I said, from the fans' perspective, from me personally, I like to see the Pacers in the playoffs, so long as they don't get swept, because you never know what can happen. And this has been a weird and crazy season. They've beaten some really good teams. They've lost to some really bad teams. But, it's to me, I like where they have always drafted. So I'm always going to err on the side of I want to see them in the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't pretend to be a Pacer expert. In fact, I can't watch a lot of Pacer games because of my TV provider. And I know that's been a sticking point, not only with the fans, but with the franchise and everything. So I would love to watch them more. I just don't have that ability, but I stay up on top of them as best as I can. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because for the most part, it's seemingly the same team as the team they had last year that finished as high as 4th in the AFC. But for whatever, I know Karis LeVert is in, Victor Oladipo is out, but outside of that, it's pretty much the same core. But defensively, why has there been such a regression on the defensive end?
In my opinion, it's a change in style. There's also been a push to, in my opinion, this is a team that plays a lot faster tempo on the offensive side. So when you do that, you're going to allow more points to be scored. And then you look at the injury to Miles Turner. He just has not, he's 65. Chris Denari will have to tell us what this stat is, but he had like a franchise record, 65 straight blocks, and he's missed a good amount of time. So that's a factor as well. He's not just a rim protector. He's a guy that can defend the wings and get out to the 3-point line too. So I think there's a number of factors. The Pacers, for the past 4 or 5 years, the goal has been to score more points. And that's a big reason why Nate McMillan, after being swept in the playoffs last year, he was, they kind of just cut ties with them because they weren't scoring enough points. In instances, we've seen this Pacers team. You just saw it the other day when they scored 144 or whatever the total ended up being. So I think that that's part of it. the other part of it, again, you're dealing with injuries and you're dealing with this new chemistry and this new staff. So that's why I say I hate when people talk about firing a coach or making that kind of coaching change, especially right now when Nate Bjorken is in his first year. I want to see this team healthy. I want to see them all playing together, because down the stretch, even when they're losing games, they look like they're playing. Since that Sacramento game in late April or early May, they've played really good team basketball, and I think they're getting a little bit better on the defensive end. They just don't have the depth right now. I mean, you look at that laundry list, and it's like the Fort Wayne Mad Ants are taking the floor tonight, right? Because they just have so many key guys out. So, in my opinion, those are the factors that are leading the Pacers to giving up more points. And hopefully they've had trouble with Russell Westbrook. So I'm really not looking forward to seeing what they do defensively against him tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a wild man, but he never wins big though. His teams, ever notice he sets a lot of stats, but they're not going to the finals. But who cares? He's not on my team anyway. I don't know, Matt. I know you don't have do you have to run yet?
Yeah, I do have a meeting.
Okay,
shortly. Yeah.
Last question. This is kind of different. Name, image, likeness. It's not likely, I think, that the NCAA is going to pass this right now, but there are 6 states that currently have that it's going to go into effect July 1st. 5 of them, of course, are teams that I call SEC. Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee are 5 of the 6. So they are jumping out in front of this so they can legally start handing out the cash that they're already handing out in the SEC. And I'm not joking. I had a coach. I've had a Division I coach just tell me that I don't know how Alabama gets away with it. And it is that bad. And it is. And you can see there's so
you got proof of this? Huh? Come on now. You got proof of this? What are you doing? Are you talking
personally?
Come on now.
Me personally? Yeah, that's true. Me personally? No, I do not. But I just don't see how in the world there's any way possible this is not going to just exponentially blow that into a much bigger issue. If they're cheating now, how are they not going to cheat when you give them legal parameters?
Well, it wouldn't be cheating.
Well, no,
right?
They can cheat outside of that. They're going to have to set some kind of parameters. I would imagine there has to be when they get to it, because otherwise every Alabama player is going to come in with a deal set up to every car dealer around the state of Alabama or whatever.
Theoretically, though, I mean, I get what you're saying, but theoretically, it should even the playing field.
It
right?
should.
I mean, like if kids know that I can go make money off of my likeness and I can market myself as a college athlete, whether I'm a Division I basketball player or a Division I football player, those are probably the 2 most marketable sports, if you will. In theory, they can go make they can go grab a deal with Ray Skillman in Indianapolis if they play for IU or Purdue, or they could, get on
or Andy Moore.
Or Andy Moore. There you go. Exactly. or do the same thing at Alabama or Auburn or Michigan. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think this is only this in theory should be a good thing for all of college sports to kind of, take away the leverage that Alabama has on recruiting, so to speak.
I think, though, what it may do is it will give them, but they're going to have to be looking at the NCAA can't do much right as an institution now on its own. So they're going to have to be looking at all these things now and studying them all. Well, the under the table stuff, I think, is going to now be easier for these places to do. But
we'll see.
I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
What's up next for you, brother? I know you got.
I'm not in the underbelly of college scandals, so I live my life on the straight and narrow. I like to, I'm so simple. It's the KISS method. Keep it simple.
In the NFL, baby, they just straightforward. Boom.
Right.
Just
everybody's getting paid. Yeah.
Everybody's getting paid. What's up next for you?
Well, right now the Colts are back. They were on the field this week for the first time since that playoff loss in Buffalo. It's kind of interesting. So Ryan Kelly, who is the team's union player rep this week, came out and said that the players and the coaching staff and the front office, they came to a compromise on an off-season program. So they basically held voluntary workouts for the entire team that started on Monday, and those are going to extend until the end of next week. And that's obviously a big compromise because of the backdrop of COVID-19. I'm sure you guys were aware and saw that starting about a month ago, several teams around the NFL said, hey, with the pandemic still going on, we just don't feel like it's in our best interest to all come back and reconvene and go through the testing and, be around one another when we don't necessarily have to. And, is that an excuse? I don't know. But I mean, I think the players have finally found some leverage to not come in and go through, a full OTA period and go through a mini camp. I mean, as we all know, the NFL is the only professional sport that has full off-season practices. And that's kind of been their point. And that's always been kind of the sticking point when the CBA gets negotiated. It's the off-season program and how it's going to work and how long it's going to be and how intense will it be. So now the players have some leverage. And so the Colts have come to a compromise saying, all right, it's probably going to be in our best interest to save our bodies. I mean, the NFL proved last year that it can put on a very full, successful, entertaining season without having any offseason program, no preseason games at all. They still got everything through an entire season and a Super Bowl. So that's where the players are coming from. The coaches obviously want as much time on the field with the team as possible to install the playbook, go over situations, evaluate the roster. So it's kind of a give and take where the players are in for 2 weeks, but it's going to be mostly install stuff, mostly mental, a lot of walkthrough, nothing full go, no 7-on-7, no live 11-on-11 drills, offense versus defense. So I think it's a nice compromise. I think the biggest question is this now the future of off-season programs in the NFL? With the players again having the leverage to say, this is in our best interest to save our bodies to get ready for the season. And the coach is obviously trying to get as much back in return so that training camp is not as crazy nuts trying to install the playbook and trying to evaluate the roster, a 90-man team going from 90 to 53 guys in only a couple weeks.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that's going to be look forward to seeing what COVID has brought about changes next season in all the sports and all the different things, and that's just one of them. Brother, I cannot thank you enough. I know you got to run, and appreciate it. Look forward to you getting down to Bloomington. How's the little one?
Everybody's good. Yeah, everybody's good. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're getting ready for summer, so we're excited about it.
Buddy, you go out and have a great day. Look forward to it.
All right, guys. Be well. Thank you.
Matt Taylor joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Back with much more of me and Dustin Schutte right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Whether you're looking for...
Hey, since you're doing the cuts, John, I was going to have, when I was having the other people do it, it's kind of a pain in the ass, and it would require you to cut 5 different openings.
Okay.
But
what do you mean?
Well, you'd say here's, or actually, you could just cut 5 more and add it to the back. Here's Jim Coyle and today's co-host, Dustin Schutte.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Since the co-host
that is if let's just say, how sometimes Dylan sends you don't show up.
You cut. That's why if you can figure out how to.
I can just make it one that I can just keep this one that has just you. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, you always have that.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of a pain in the ass making 5.
It's
I know.
Fine. I can do whatever you need me to do. And then also,
well,
I think it would sound better. I think I'm going to add it's not going to be very big, but something like a small little music bed underneath the "We'll be right back," just so it sounds like a transition from the show to a commercial.
Make sure it's not too loud, because I know it's on some.
It won't be. That's what I'm saying. It'll be something very subtle that you can just kind of tell it's transitioning. That's what I'm going to do. I'll do that this week.
There's nothing better than subtlety, Dustin.
There isn't. You need one of those insightful thoughtfulness type of do.
No, that drives me nuts.
Not like that. No. It'll be more like just a simple little beat or a guitar or something.
Why did? So you didn't go to Georgia for you, did you? So is there a possibility that you could move to Indiana?
Not. I mean, the answer is yes, but it won't be for at least another year.
We'll talk about it later. That would be very handy. No, I'm just saying that would allow.
I know. Yep.
See, my brain just starts doing this.
Going a million miles an hour.
Already, and I'm already like 5 steps ahead. I'm like, and once that idea comes in there, I'm like, whoop, and then I'm like 5 steps ahead of it. Oh, that. And then it's like
coming back.
Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyle.
Hope you're having a good Thursday. Dustin Schutte with me as always from Saturday Tradition. What do you guys got going on Saturday Tradition?
Because we have a lot going on. I just did I've released my Heisman odds favorites out of the Big Ten. They haven't had a Heisman winner in 14 years. So I put Michael Penix Jr. on that list right in the middle. I think he's got a good shot if he's 100% healthy. Predicting when every Big Ten team loses its first game of the season.
Who was the last Heisman? Ron Dane? Who was?
The last one was Troy Smith out of Ohio State in 2006.
What?
Ron Dane was what, 99 or 2000?
I don't remember Troy Smith winning the Heisman Trophy. Holy crap.
He did, and then Ohio State got their butts kicked in the national championship game.
If you would have said Troy Smith won the Heisman in what year, I would have said 1906. I'm like, that's not a name that's, for whatever reason, is jumping out at me.
Because and the Big Ten's had better players than him, too, to not win it. You look at Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, Saquon Barkley. I'm
not going to say he would have won the Heisman, but he got screwed over not being in New York. Tevin Coleman. How in the hell do you rush for 2,000 yards for Indiana in the Big Ten against the Big Ten East and the rest of that and not be in the top freaking 5? That was such a load of crap. Because he played for Indiana.
You see the name across this, even though it's not a Hoosier shirt, it's because he had that across the chest. And
it's the same reason Anthony Thompson did not win the Heisman Trophy. Well, actually, I'm becoming more and more convinced that Anthony Thompson simply didn't win the Heisman because Indiana could not beat Purdue in that last game. They had a losing record, it's 4-5 or whatever the record was. It was just one under. Only one player in the history of the Heisman Trophy has won it on a losing team, and it was Paul Hornung, the Golden Boy from Notre Dame in the era of Notre Dame in the 50s, and he went on to play for the Packers. Anthony Thompson would have won the Heisman had Indiana had a even record or better. It was just a shame that he didn't, again, because it's what he accomplished against who he accomplished it against and who he did it for.
Well,
it makes all that harder.
And to me, the thing that's really dumb, because I think that you bring up a great point, because Jonathan Taylor is another one of those guys who never received an invitation, and he had over 6,000 yards in his career, 2,000-plus yard rushing seasons, led the Big Ten multiple seasons. So he's thrown into that category. And Wisconsin was, they went to the Big Ten championship game, I think 2 times when he was there. So to me, they say that the Heisman Trophy is handed out to the best player in college football. It's not true. It's the best player on the best team.
Yes.
And that's a problem to me because you have so many, Tevin Coleman is a great example of that. He was one of the best players. I'm not going to say he should have won, but he should have earned an invitation. But because you're on a losing team, but this isn't, to me, that's more of a basketball type of requirement because one guy means so much more on the basketball court. There's only so much Tevin Coleman can do. He can't play defense. He can't be on special teams. He can't play.
Again, I just look at it. Look what he did, who he did it for, who he did it against. It's easy. It's simple math.
And the thing that worked against him that season was, if I remember correctly, there were a ton of 1,000-yard rushers in the Big Ten that season.
Well,
there was
Oklahoma had 2 players go, their quarterback and the receiver, and neither of them won the award, I don't think. I can't remember who all was there, but yeah, it's just stuff, crap to talk about. Where was this? Chris says, that's not the one I was looking for. It's this one. He said Indiana seemed to charge too much for home games. I remember seeing an IU versus Iowa game when Randall L. was there and tickets were $40+, and that was 20 years ago. What are they now? I think they're only like $47.
Let me tell you, it shouldn't matter because
I guarantee you they're a lot less than anybody else.
That's what I was just going to say. Other than like Purdue and Illinois, you want to talk about expensive? There are Ohio State fans who only go to away games because they can't afford to get into Ohio Stadium. Or same with Michigan, Wisconsin. So many of these. So when you're talking about a ticket being under $50, that's a good price. I'm not telling you how to spend your income, but
there are only 6 home games.
Right.
That's $300, man. Season tickets, $300. Look at their freaking schedule.
And would you have trouble throwing that out to the basketball tickets? My guess is no.
Times 18 or whatever the number is.
That's
Yeah. So, but hell, it's a bargain. I promise you. Go look up Power 5 teams right now. And who is someone you would consider equal to Indiana in football in the Big Ten?
In the Big Ten, oh boy, Illinois.
Oh no. Let's see what Purdue football season tickets.
Here we go. And Indiana does a lot of really good deals too. They usually have like a young alumni deal.
Well, that's because they're not getting the people to go. They're just trying to get people into the habit of going. I'm sure I won't be able to pull up pricing because they always like to hide all that crap until the end. But I'd be curious to see
my point on
tickets.
Was I've been to an LSU game and back when I went, you couldn't buy the ticket without also making a donation to the LSU.
Oh, back in the day, yeah, you had they would use basketball to force you to buy football season tickets because it was so bad. Now they don't. If you want to be honest, if I were an Indiana football fan, I'd get my season tickets now and then hope you can move down a little bit because I really don't think Tom Allen's going to have a problem sustaining success. I'm not saying he's winning the Big Ten every year, but I don't think that he is going to have a problem maintaining success.
Here's the thing though, Jim. This is almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing right here, but he's doing a great job recruiting. He's done a great job hiring his staff and coaching. But I'm telling you right now, if Michigan comes to town, Ohio State comes to town, these big games, and people aren't in that stadium, recruits are going to see that. That's going to have a negative impact on recruiting. There's only so much you can sell, but these players want to play in front of fans that love them. They want to play in front of a sold-out stadium. Maybe it's not 100,000, but if you get 60,000 people rocking, that's still a great environment. So the fans do play a role in this. Recruits see it on TV. They don't want to see a completely empty end zone or the student section half full. They want to see places rocking. That helps your recruiting. It's not the end-all, be-all, but if you go through this season and you see a typical Indiana season where the stadium is half empty, that is eventually going to be a problem for Indiana recruiting. And that's where you start to see that slippery slope again, where you might start to see this program digress because Tom Allen just can't sell it anymore. I mean, he's a great salesman. He obviously cares about his players. They care about him, but
you have to win.
You have to win, but if the fans aren't coming out when you're winning, that's going to stick out to a lot of recruits. That's why players still go to Nebraska, even though they've been terrible the last 4 years, because
that's why they still come to Indiana basketball.
And that's exactly. So that's where fans have to be willing to spend the money to go to the games. Otherwise, it's really difficult to sustain success.
Well, and by saying I think that they're going to be able to maintain success, that includes winning. You have to be in this, what I call the 4-horse mix in the Big Ten East. That means you got to kick somebody out, because there's Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. Those are the three. That's the three-headed monster, and Michigan State has owned a piece of that for a long time. But is it Michigan or Michigan State that you kick out? But one of those you got to kick out. Michigan State is the easier path, it would seem, just because of the historical tradition of Michigan and the crowd and all that. But you got to kick somebody out, but imagine that. Okay, that brings up a whole nother thing. There is no way in the world, if Indiana now becomes successful, how in the hell are you going to have Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Michigan State, and Indiana in the same damn division? And why do they even have divisions in the Big Ten? They don't use them.
They're going to, I think when this college football playoff expands, I think you'll probably see the elimination of those divisions. That's my opinion. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess. And you'll see what they do in the Big 12, where number 1 plays number 2. That's my guess.
It's there's inequities because you don't play everybody. So, and in basketball, that's not a problem, but in football, it's a major problem, because who you don't play makes or breaks your season. If you're in the Western Division and you don't have to play Ohio State, hello, because every team in the Big Ten East has to, although it does not affect their divisional standing. I mean, it does not affect it any less than losing or beating Illinois. Doesn't matter. It's ridiculous. Why have divisions if you don't only count the divisional games for the divisional standings?
That's been my gripe about it too. Like,
I don't understand it. It does not make any sense whatsoever.
It should be like the overall conference games should be the tiebreaker. So if you have, a couple, what do you want to say, 4-2 teams in the West, or however you want to do that, and you have to determine a champion, then maybe you look at the overall conference record. But you could have somebody draw Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan theoretically in the crossover, and then another team draws Michigan State, Maryland, and Rutgers, and maybe that Team X beats Team Y, but Team Y still gets to go to the Big Ten championship game because they had the easier crossover schedule. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You need to do that thing based on divisions, but the Big Ten, I don't think the Big Ten's going to change that anytime soon.
Yeah, and I don't either. And then you've got all the other conferences that, and by the way, Purdue's season tickets only like $270.
So it's comparable to Indiana then.
Yeah, and I don't know what their home schedule is. They probably have a crappy home schedule. They may not. Sometimes, they should have 6 games because now that everyone's playing 12, I guarantee you their schedule's not as good as Indiana's this year, at least. But that doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, football season tickets, that's not a hard purchase. I'd get them and hope you can continue to move down. It's just, but fans have to show up in the stands. It's time for the fans to make a difference. There comes a time where you just have to jump on board, and the Indiana fan base, they have to do that. I mean, these guys have been grinding at this. Tom Allen has been grinding at this for 4 years. Okay, it's time for you, and the students especially, that leaving at halftime crap. Indiana, because they have that app where they get credit for the students coming to a sporting event. Well, it should also show exactly when you leave. And if you leave prior to the fourth quarter, it should cut you in half, whatever your points that you got.
I would agree with. I mean, that's a good way to do that. I didn't even know that was a way that they were getting students into the games. I mean, it's a good idea, but you're right. If you're just there for a few minutes, then what's the point?
And then the name, image, likeness that I talked about earlier. We got just a couple of minutes here in this segment, but in those southern states, how is that going to go forward? Because the NCAA is not likely. I was reading something. They're not likely to recommend this, is what I was reading. NCAA Council is not likely to recommend passing of formal name, image, likeness legislation this week at its upcoming meeting. Sources told CBS Sports the inaction would come just days after NCAA President Mark Emmert urged members to pass such legislation by July 1st as pressure mounts nationally with NIL laws in the 6 states that I mentioned. It will therefore be unlikely that the NCAA will have legislation in place to regulate its schools in 6 weeks. So how in the hell are you going to go into the fall? The NCAA does not have it. These states have it. So these schools can do it now. It's a mess, as I thought it would be. It's a mess.
Yeah, the NCAA had an opportunity to get out in front of this years ago, and they just drug their feet. And now you're going to have
What's different?
You're going to have some serious conflict, some serious issues with this, I think, moving forward. And I think there's some good parts to it. I think there's some bad parts to it, but the NCAA should have just gotten out in front of this and changed some of their rules in the first place, and we wouldn't be having this mess where our own states are battling the NCAA, and the NCAA is still stuck in the 1990s or whatever the case might be. So 1890s. There you go. They just need to change at the top. The biggest slap in the face of this whole thing was Emmert getting that contract extension.
That is unbelievable. We got to take a break. When we come back, Chris Denari will join us. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're Where are you in Florida?
Gainesville.
Oh, that's right. You already said that. We got some buddies down there?
My brother.
Huh. I have not been to Gainesville.
We're hitting up the UF golf course on Friday.
What the hell was I just pulling up? Damn it.
Here's Chris.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, how are you guys?
Lovely. Relaxed.
Got the PGA on ESPN Plus.
Oh,
Is
yes.
it on?
Yeah,
Is it on already?
yeah, on ESPN Plus, not on regular ESPN.
I'm going to have to freaking break down and get that, I guess, just for Peyton Manning. Damn it.
Oh yeah, those are good. Yeah,
Oh, I've seen the old ones. I haven't seen the new ones.
I've got ESPN Plus, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
I got them all.
Yeah, YouTube TV is so great except for one thing.
But they don't.
I don't have
sports. I mean,
they don't have Bally anymore.
well, they don't. Yeah, I mean, if you have that, you can't watch Pacers, you can't watch Reds, you can't watch Cubs. You know, because they don't have any.
But nobody. But there's very few that in Indiana that have it right now, though, right?
What?
That package.
Oh, I mean, you mean streaming? I mean, cable. All the cables have it. It's just the streamers that don't have it. Hulu and YouTube, and Dish. Everybody else has it.
Damn it.
Because we're on Uverse, Xfinity, Bright House, Spectrum.
Before they did that, YouTube was perfect. I had all the sports I could want. I've got the Big Ten Network, the ACC Network, the SEC Network, had the Pacers. I'm like, boom, I can't watch anything else.
And all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat on this Thursday. Dustin Schutte with me as always from Saturday Tradition, and we're joined by Chris Denari from Indiana Pacers as always as well. Sarah, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful Thursday morning. I'm going to mow the lawn a little bit later. Watching the PGA because I don't have a broadcast tonight. It's TNT only. So I'll watch the game just like everybody else. Pacers and the Wizards in the play-in to see who can make the first round of the playoffs.
When is the last Pacers game that you did not get to broadcast?
Well, I've not done two this year. The Pacers played the Clippers on TNT in the regular season. We weren't allowed to do that. And then I didn't do the game the other night. So of the 73 games the Pacers have played, I've done 71 of them. And usually it works out. You can't do during the regular season TNT or ABC. You can't do those games. So if the Pacers, for instance, a couple of years ago, the Pacers had a TNT game on a Thursday and they had an ABC game on a Sunday. So I didn't do either of those. So most of the time, Jim, it's we're going to do 99% of the games. But the NBA cut an exclusive deal with both TNT and ESPN for these play-in games, and so that's why we're not doing them.
Well, I hate to see that, but the only good thing about that is I love Charles Barkley at halftime, so I do get to. But so I will get to see that. But he's hilarious. But yeah, it stinks that I like to having the same guys do the games, and I know that the fans, they want to hear you, they want to hear and if they listen on radio, they want to hear their people. They right how they want it, but that's how it goes sometimes. But a little more, maybe it could be do or die. So it's also so you could have done your last game already. We don't know.
Yeah, I could be done. Yeah. If the Pacers make the first round of the playoffs, if they win tonight, we'll be back on the air for the first round. And we would do them side by side. Those games would be national as well. And in the market, for instance, let's say the Pacers win tonight. Game 1 against Philadelphia is Sunday at 1:00. It would be on TNT as well as Bally Sports. So just like during the regular season when ESPN has a game, we're able to broadcast the game as well. So, yeah, easily last weekend, last Sunday in Toronto, could have been our final telecast of the year. We just didn't know based on what happens to the Pacers this week. And, we'll see what happens tonight. They were outstanding on Tuesday. I mean, they just blew Charlotte off the floor at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. They did it without Karis LeVert. He's out with the health and safety protocol. He tested positive for COVID-19, which is so unfortunate this late in the year. But the good news was they got Malcolm Brogdon back. They got Edmund Sumner back. They got Aaron Holiday back. So they had a little bit more depth in the backcourt. And they'll need that tonight to try to stop Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook because those two have been so good against the Pacers this year.
And Chris, I was just going to say, I worked out the numbers. I think Russell Westbrook is averaging 107 points, 78 rebounds, and 46 assists against the Pacers this season. Is there any way to stop him, or do you just have to try to take other players around him out of the game and just know that he's going to get his? Because he's been, why they lost against Boston, and I know they don't have the best record. He's playing in that unbelievable level right now, and the Pacers have really had no answer in their games against the Wizards this season for him.
Yeah, and Dustin, I think, unfortunately, the rest of the league in the last 25 or so games, nobody really had an answer. Mm-hmm. If you go back to those 25 games, I think Washington had the second best record in the NBA over that stretch. So they have clearly played like a playoff team, not a play-in team. I think you've got to manage him. He's going to get numbers. He's that good. The question is his shot falling? He did not shoot it very well on Tuesday night in Boston. Neither did Bradley Beal. I think Beal is still showing some effects from that strained hamstring he suffered against the Pacers a couple of weeks ago that forced him to miss the remainder of the regular season. But I think you're right, Dustin. You've got to make sure that other guys don't get going. And one of the issues the Pacers have had in those games, while Beal put up big numbers and Westbrook put up big numbers, Rui Hachimura was really good against the Pacers. Ish Smith came off the bench and was good. Daniel Gafford, their backup center. So if you can do a decent job of managing those players, you can allow Westbrook to get some pretty big numbers because he's probably going to get that anyway. It's just how you manage those other players.
And you'll have to refresh my memory here, but I don't think, or I don't remember Miles Turner being on the floor, at least for the last game against the Wizards and maybe a couple of those. I mean, that's obviously a big deal no matter who the Pacers are playing because he's such a great defensive player. But does that add to it the fact that they don't have that extra line of protection? He's a great rim protector, and he's also a guy that he can defend the perimeter too. So him not being on the floor, I think, has been the great detriment. And we've seen the Wizards put up a heck of a lot of points against the Pacers the last two games. And yeah. I just continually think if Miles Turner's on the floor, I'm not thinking you're holding them to under 100 points, but you might be able to hold them to 120. And the way that they've been able to score and the way they've played offense against the Wizards, they've played well enough to win on that end of the floor. They just can't come up with the stops at the end of the game to get the win.
No, you're right. Washington has scored, I think, 132, 154, and 133 against the Pacers. So they're averaging somewhere about 135, and they're going to give up points. You can score on the Wizards. I think the one thing, Dustin, that the Pacers have done, even since that last Washington game early in May, they've made some adjustments defensively because they don't have Miles Turner. One of the issues that I felt they were struggling with was Nate Bjorkgren's style of play is he wants to put a lot of pressure on the ball. He comes from Toronto where they had great success doing that. But again, they have Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. They had Norman Powell. They had Terrence Davis, all guys who could pressure the perimeter. And if you got beat, and rarely they did, what Nate Bjorkgren had was Miles Turner at the rim to protect the rim. I'm just not sure with the Pacers personnel that you can apply the same amount of defensive pressure out on the perimeter. So I think what they've done here in the last month is they've really backed off in that situation. Doesn't mean you still don't want to keep your man in front of you, but you want to take less chances because you don't have Miles Turner back there to back you up. So I think the way the Pacers defend will be a little bit different tonight than what we've seen in the three prior Washington games, especially the last time these teams played. And if you remember that, the Pacers probably should have won that game. It was a Saturday night. It went overtime. They had a late lead. Washington rallied in the fourth quarter to tie, and then Westbrook won it with a couple of free throws and a block shot late. So I think the way the Pacers defend differently will be key tonight in this game.
You know, something else I just happened to notice, a little irony here. The Pacers are about to face their third consecutive IU alumnus.
Yeah.
With OG in Toronto. Then they took care of Cody Zeller and Charlotte. And then tonight, Thomas Bryant and almost said the Bullets. The Wizards come in.
Yeah. The problem for Bryant is he's been out the whole year basically with I think he tore his ACL early in the year, and that's forced them to go to this sort of three-headed center. They use Alex Len from the Ukraine who played at Maryland. They use Daniel Gafford, and then they use Robin Lopez, and they're all three different. I think the good news for the Pacers is they have Goga Bitadze back, who gives them some size off the bench behind Sabonis. If I remember, I mean, they played Washington the last time with a player no bigger than 6'7" as their center. So it's good to have Sabonis back, of course, and it's good to have Bitadze back to give the Pacers some size inside.
Yeah, we'll certainly see if they can get past. What are your thoughts on as far as the matchup? This seems to be a good matchup for Indiana to actually make the playoffs. It's going to be tough, obviously, but I think that they can, the way they're playing, if they can continue doing that, they are going to be in the playoffs.
Well, I always think it's tough for anybody to beat somebody 4 times in a year, and that's what Washington is going to have to do. They beat the Pacers 3 times in the regular season, twice at Capital One Arena. The other good news about Indiana is playing on the road is no real bother to them. They had the best road record in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, hear that again. While they had only won 13 home games, they had 21 wins on the road. That was more than Philadelphia, more than Miami, more than Milwaukee, more than Brooklyn, more than Boston. This was a very good road team this year. So the fact that they're on the road in a do or die type situation, I really don't think bothers the Pacers very much tonight.
The one thing that I have to say that kind of worries me about this game tonight, Chris, is the fact that Washington, and I mentioned him obviously because he's the story to me, is Russell Westbrook. He's been a guy who's been in these situations. He's played in game 7s. He's had his season on the line multiple times throughout his career. To me, the Pacers really don't have that. They haven't been in this situation before. And to me, there's a positive and a negative. You know, the negative is you don't know maybe what to expect in this situation. The second is, or the positive is you really don't have anything to lose.
Right.
And this team has played since that Sacramento game, they've played more, better chemistry. They've communicated better, and they've played hard. It's been really fun to watch, but they've also played like, we have nothing to lose right here. We're just going to go all out. And so I think tonight, that first quarter is going to be incredibly huge for the Pacers to get off to a hot start like they did against Charlotte.
Yeah, and I think, what was impressive about that game on Tuesday night is how many times do we see a team jump out to a big lead early, especially in the NBA. 3-point shooting can get you back. It's a 48-minute game. The fact that Indiana was able to keep Charlotte down by 20 for the better part of the first half into the third quarter, I thought was very impressive because that's been one of the Pacers' Achilles heels this year. They've gotten off to good starts. The first quarter has been their best quarter all year, but a lot of times they weren't able to sustain it even at home. So I think you're right, Dustin. I think an early start, gain some momentum, hit some shots early, have another night like Doug McDermott had where he made his first 4 threes. That would be very big for the Pacers. And then, try to keep Washington at bay. But it's a one-game situation. The TV ratings have been really good. The Pacers rating on TNT locally in Indianapolis was the best rating all year of any game. It was 129% better than the overall rating on the year. So it does show that people are still interested, that there's an excitement about these one-and-done situations. And, all you can ask for is that opportunity. And if the Pacers are able to win, they'll go in as a huge underdog starting Sunday against Philadelphia as the 8th seed. But that's what this team is trying to do, and we'll see if it can happen tonight.
Yep, we want it to have to happen. So you're back on the air next week.
That's
Tonight,
right.
The Pacers play 8:00 in Washington. But make sure to get them a victory so we can so Chris can keep working. We can't have him not working. If he wasn't doing that, you'll be out in the garden digging your hands in the ground again.
Yeah. We are hosting a wedding shower this weekend on our property for a daughter of a good friend of ours. So I have to have this place looking pretty pristine on Saturday. So it really all works out, guys. I've got this time to do all that work. The wedding shower is Saturday, and then hopefully I'm doing a game on Sunday. So we'll hope that's the weekend.
The life of a rock star, and he's our rock star, Chris Denari, brother. I can't thank you enough.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers, joining us here on this Thursday. Dustin, Schutte, myself, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Whether you're looking for a relaxing...
Is Marv going to pursue... Oh.
Oh, hey, by the way,
Yes.
I think we messed up a couple weeks, or maybe it was last week. We talked about Michael Penix. He technically has 3 years of eligibility left.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because of this year.
Because
he's a COVID baby.
Yep, because he had 2018 he redshirted, and then 2020 was a no eligibility year. So technically, he has I don't think he'll stay 3 years, but he could.
And he's one of those guys that could have been granted an extra medical redshirt year.
Yeah,
He probably already got that.
No, not an extra one. You don't just
medical red shirt. I gotcha.
You'll see cases where before people were in the school for 6 years because they had gotten like a medical red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
People like Pat Graham who missed 2 entire seasons, man. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, we can talk about a little Marv Albert. Marv Albert retiring.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
proud you haven't mentioned Indiana basketball once this show.
Don't say that out loud, man. You shouldn't have said that out loud.
I didn't hear what he said. What?
Now we're fucked.
No one. They haven't even been talking about it in the comments.
Well, not until now.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
you can't.
We got 10 minutes left, Jim. They're not going to sit there. And
I know, but
feed like crazy wolves.
We've been talking.
you realize they can hear you, right?
I know they can hear me.
Okay. Yeah, Marv Albert retiring. So was Kenny Mayne, though. I'm gonna miss Kenny Mayne. He was.
I mean, kind of.
Kind of funny. He didn't. Yeah, he wasn't enough.
He's kind of retiring. He did. They were.
He was kind of funny.
Yeah. He had that dry sense of humor.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough.
He what they were going to cut his salary like 70% or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. Probably.
Some story.
He makes too damn much.
I mean, I don't know what he made, so I didn't read the whole article, but
Well, I don't know what he makes either. I know it's too much. They all make too much. Tim, I don't know where you come up with the information you come up with, but some of it is
Coming back.
Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty, Indy Home Pros. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. Hope your Thursday is going well. This has been a fun one. Chris Denari and Matt Taylor have been on with us. Dustin Schutte is here as he is each week from Saturday Tradition. PGA going on, Indy 500 practice underway, lots of stuff happening. But what were we talking about in the break that I wanted to talk about?
Marv Albert.
Marv Albert's retiring. Someone mentioned, yeah. Let's see. Someone is Marv going to pursue his crazy hobbies? Yeah. Marv likes the ladies. Yes, he did. Yes! See, that's another one. Yes! The old Marv Albert. Yes!
Patented.
Kenny Mayne retiring as well from ESPN. But I guess kind of Chris, daggone it, from ESPN.
Chris Berman.
Chris Berman, he just signed a new contract with them.
And he did retire a couple years ago.
He did, and what are they're redoing that NFL show that he did, but on a different platform. Is it on ESPN Plus? I think it is. I think that they're doing that platform just on ESPN Plus. And so now he's got a whole new career. It's nuts.
I think ESPN is starting to find out they got to add more content to that Plus, because especially this time of year, when there's not much going on, they got to get those subscribers up. I mean, I have it. I think it's great because obviously I live in Kennesaw and I follow the Owls basketball, and they have a deal with them, so every basketball game is broadcast on that network. So it works out for me. But there's some people that it's not really beneficial for them to have that. I mean, you get a lot of other things. Insider information and some of those stories, but they're looking to put more content on there for sure.
Daryl Thomas' son, former Indiana Hoosier, Daryl Thomas, 87 national champion member, 6'9" son, says he's good enough for Illinois, and IU should be giving him a serious look. We'll see how that works out. I don't know much about him. We'll find out is he a senior. I haven't kept up with him, but we'll certainly find out. Let's see. Kyle Thomas. There you go. His name's Kyle. Kyle Thomas wants an offer from Woody. Joey doesn't like Chris Berman. He's a fat jerk. Actually, I've speaking of some funny things. We need Sean wants more Gus Johnson doing Indiana games. Yeah, that would be well, let me tell you. You know why you haven't seen Gus Johnson doing more Indiana games? Because Indiana hasn't had the marquee games.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana has been marquee only in name, and that's been the marquee for them. That will change. That's another thing that will change. You will start. It will be like it used to be. Every Saturday, Indiana was on CBS playing somebody, or a national game. That's going to be returning, and Fox has the partnership with the Big Ten. You will. I would be shocked if you don't see. I'll be shocked if you don't see Gus Johnson doing more basketball and football games for Indiana this year. So there you go.
They'll probably be on Big Noon, depending on how their season goes. They'll probably be on Big Noon kickoff once or twice, I would imagine. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. They got some big ones, obviously.
I talked a little bit about this yesterday. Louisville basketball is in trouble again. Golly. I don't know what you do with this situation. Now, you know about all the crap. The NCAA is still dealing with trying to decide how to penalize them for committing violations while they were on probation.
Right.
So they're still doing that. Now while the deal with the Dino Gaudio itself is nothing, but what he alleges, is there something to that? Because what he alleges is he was going to turn Louisville in for some recruiting violation crap that they were doing that they weren't supposed to be doing. I can't get this stupid. There we go.
It was like a video media thing that they were sending to recruits or
well, just a few different things, but the fact that it was just some violations, period.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been enough to say, wait a minute, this is like the third. Damn it, I just had it. But if there's issues if there are recruiting issues going on, what the hell do you do with that? Getting recruiting violations while you're being investigated for recruiting violations while you were on probation for committing recruiting violations.
Yep.
The death penalty's been off the table, but come on. Louisville is flirting. I mean, Louisville is flirting if there is something to this.
Right. Well, I'm sure that there has to be some sort of reduction in scholarship, like a serious reduction in scholarship, I would think. I don't know. I mean, going back and the dumbest thing that the NCAA does is it retracts and vacates the wins. Nobody cares about that.
No.
Nobody cares about that.
Who among the Caesars, 357 Division I programs, Louisville has already had 2 major issues in 12 years. There's no one comes close to that now. Then you've got the AAU stuff. I'm not even going to waste our time on that. We've only got a couple minutes to. So, hey, let's see. Go back over here. Chris Harris, they got 3 4-stars, 2 4-stars. They're talking about India. These guys were talking about Indiana football. I think Indiana football is going to be. I think they're going to be the second best team in the Big Ten East next year. I think that's where they end up. I don't not believe that they can't beat Ohio State, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to beat Ohio State. They're not going to be the favorite, and I'll have to wait to see how things play out when we get closer to that game. It's a hell of a long time away. But I everything you have to wait till all of that gets closer to really predict that. but there's no reason other than injuries. Well, you can't predict those. So what do you got coming up this weekend, man?
Oh man, like I said, I'm playing a lot of golf. We'll still continue to crank out content, even though it's the off season. We never sleep. So just there's always stuff with the transfer portal, basketball news that will follow the name, image, likeness stuff, and we'll continue to crank out Big Ten content. So there's nothing really in particular coming up, but this is the fun time of year. So you just talked about not making any predictions, but we've got plenty of them on our website with stories with predicting first losses and Heisman candidates and top players in the Big Ten. So there's plenty of Big Ten stuff still on our website, even in the slower months.
Yeah, I was talking about Kyle Thomas. Tim mentions that his coach passed 15 months after his father, Darryl, did. His high school is closing, so he's moving to another, but not released that name yet. So, yeah, that's a lot of change this kid's going through. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Alec Lasley will be on with us, so we can talk about that then. Which exactly Verdell Jones tomorrow. So we'll get more IU basketball in for you guys and whatever else is going on. But I hope you guys go out and have a great day. Dustin, I can't thank you enough, man. Enjoy the links.
Yes.
And have fun. And you got to head up this way soon.
Absolutely. I'll be up there. I'll hopefully get up there at the end of June. So that we'll play. We'll play when I get up there.
So you're definitely coming up into June. Cool. Looking forward to it. All right, brother. Have a great rest of your day. You guys, I can't thank you all enough. Without you all, there's no reason for us to be here. Thanks for everybody for hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. And make sure you go to YouTube, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Sign up, get the notifications, toggle that. We'll be back tomorrow with more, like I said, Alec Lasley, Verdell Jones. Until then, for Chris Denari, for Matt Taylor, and Chris Schutte, I'm Jim Coyle. And for John, producer John. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.